Yes, like Star Wars and even Game of Thrones, Dune is also about royal ruling families, who's going to take over, marriage, politics, religion, production. But, you need that big sparkle to make audiences interested in those kinds of stories. Star Wars has lightsabers and the Force and all those good things. Game of Thrones has dragons and lots of violence. And Dune has sandworms, maybe, kind of. You don't really see them very much. I think Dune is the most cerebral of those franchises and has won over some very cerebral fans as a result. There are definitely Dune heads out there. But I do wonder what the interest will be in this sequel. I think that while people were very interested in the first film because they were like, oh, here comes a repurposed IP. We're finally going to do it right. But the result was, while stunning, didn't have a lot of action sequences, those kind of things. And I see many people in the comments saying, oh, it might just be me, but I fell asleep during this movie, like right above a comment of someone else saying the same thing. So it wasn't just you. So I'm curious, especially also, I was looking into the story for this, and I think some people who are going for like the quartet of social media stars in this movie might not be so happy with the end of the film. But no spoilers. But I'd be a little worried about that if I were releasing this movie as Warner Brothers is doing. I'd be like, whew, this could go bad. All right, so let's break this down. I'm going to give you a little bit of the backstory, a little bit of what's going on, like a little bit of a cheat sheet, because there's a lot of drama on Arrakis. All right, that's the sand planet, which produces spice, which is the most valuable commodity in this entire universe. Spice. It not only extends life, but if you inhale enough of it, it's very multi-purpose. It allows you to be able to have visions, and it allows space travel, all kinds of goodies. All right. So we start out in the sand, right? In the desert. And we see our couple here, Paul Atreides and Zendaya is Chani. And he's telling her about water. He's like, it looks just like this, although you could dive right into it. And you're talking about a planet that has so little water, they're currently wearing suits where they're inhaling their own sweat and other bodily fluids. So no wonder she doesn't believe him. But I think it's interesting to draw the comparison between the dunes of the desert and the sea. Both are beautiful and dangerous. Oh, I like that. That's very poetic. And Paul, of course, House Atreides, before their fateful trip to Arrakis, they were on a planet that had quite a bit of water. But now they're here. So Zendaya is so charismatic, so likable. So Legendary's like, back in it. So there's his mom. There's Paul's mom hiding out in a basket. I wonder if Marion's in there. A wicker basket. I'm like, are all those other people carrying it? She's certainly managed to move up pretty fast with the Fremen, right? So that's Lady Jessica, of course, who is a member of the Ben Gesserit. That is that group of women who are getting their own spin-off series on now Max, I suppose. And they're all about breeding. So they send their women out to marry and get into all these houses and to not only extend and make sure the bloodlines continue, but to manipulate them. And they can even control the gender of the child who's born. And, of course, infamously or famously, Lady Jessica decided to bear her son, Oscar Isaac, a son, even though she had been instructed to bear him a daughter. And she remember she's pregnant. She's pregnant with a girl. She has that's before Oscar Isaac died. He was able to help create this child. So there is Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan, and I think it was an interesting decision not to include her father here, the Emperor, who will be played by Christopher Walken. She's a real matter-of-fact individual, as you can see right here, and I like seeing this character very much involved in the business affairs of what's going on. And so she's talking about that Arrakis is a place where a lot of weird stuff happens, of course, because it's literally a treasure planet. She says one of the darkest mysteries is, what happened to House Atreides. But we all saw it. It was bad. When I remember watching the movie and being like, wow, House Harkonnen really hates you. And I felt like, it was just so bizarre to see like House Atreides just so hated. And it was just so ruthless and brutal. Like it's just like beyond personal. You were like, what's wrong with you, man? And then you're like, have you seen Baron Harkonnen? He's a weirdo. But it was just, it was brutal. I was like, wow, House Atreides, you are unpopular. No one came to their aid. They were just exterminated. Like what's going on here. And I love this shot of the fire of the portrait of Leto, former head of the House Atreides, father of Paul. That was great. And who will ever forget his incredible death scene from the first movie? Woo, that was incredible. All right. And so his former, I don't know if she was officially his wife, but Lady Jessica is like, your dad didn't believe in revenge. And I like the duality of these shots. And also not only because they're having a very intense private conversation, but, he's very much his mother's son. And because of the Bene Gesserit's manipulation and genetics, et cetera, he has like superpowers, which are not supposed to really be had by a male in this world. The Bene Gesserit were trying to keep that skill for themselves. I actually wrote a comic book, had a similar storyline where an Amazon type character, like Wonder Woman type character, had a son, and he was the one who had the powers of that tribe. But anyway, he doesn't say anything because I think he believes in revenge. I wonder how Edna Mode would feel about this cape. She's like, it's not technically a cape, I guess. And it does look cool in the wind. So there's Florence Pugh, again, is Princess Rulon. I wore a shirt to try and match today. And she's like, what if Paul Atreides was alive? She's like, probably like, that'd make my life a lot easier, because I don't, who would like House Harkonnen? Which I guess is, the way politics are. Nobody likes anybody, but we all have to deal with each other. So there is Gurney. Remember the two people who trained Paul Atreides. One of them was killed, Jason Momoa's character. He gave his life so that Paul and Lady Jessica could get away. But Gurney's still alive. And there's Austin Butler. Some of you are like, I can't believe Austin Butler had to shave his head and his eyebrows. You've seen him walking around. He's got hair. He's got eyebrows. I believe that's a bald cap and they just covered it all up. They can do that, no problem. But you know what's interesting to me? He has such delicate features, but yet this broader physique for this role. And he looks like he walked out of a comic book drawn by Nick Dragotta. Did you ever read East West? Created by Jonathan Hickman and Nick Dragotta. Really good comic, a lot like Dune. Beautiful, but hard to follow and understand. But I read it for a very long time because it was so gorgeous and it had such interesting ideas. And so Austin Butler looks like he stepped right out of that comic. So for me, that's kind of cool. But yeah, so I don't think he shaved his head or his eyebrows because he was walking around during the awards season. He looked totally fine. And they've been, did they just start? No, this movie's ready to go. So, hair doesn't grow back that fast. They just covered it up. All right. It looks good, though. Looks good. I'm excited to see him as something besides Elvis. Now, you know what I like about this? Dave Bautista, he plays Glossu Raban, another nephew of Baron Harkonnen. These are the two nephews of Baron Harkonnen. Dave Bautista's character is supposed to pave the way for Austin Butler's, who, Stellan Skarsgård has more of a soft spot for. But anyway, Dave Bautista's going around telling everybody who will listen that, and who are a lot of people because he's doing press tours for his last few movies. And he says, I really want to be a serious actor, particularly with Denis Villeneuve, who he's worked with before also on the last Blade Runner movie. And I think a lot of us laughed and thought that was a pipe dream. But I gotta say, he looks pretty good there. I'm like, oh, Dave Bautista, you're bringing it. And he's so good in the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie that I'm like, Dave Bautista, you might just do it. I'm going to believe that maybe you will, because that's pretty impressive. He looks great. He takes over Arrakis, the ruling of Arrakis, at least just momentarily, before hopefully, Harkonnen would like Austin Butler to be one who ultimately takes over. I think that's Stellan Skarsgård floating around like the giant balloon that he is, literally blocking out the sun. Isn't that interesting? I like the color scheme. You know, a lot of it's cinematography, but a lot of it is very clever choices in makeup and costume design, which really shifts the color palette. And I think that's a cool trick of the eye. But, you know, obviously the Harkonnens see the world very much so in black and white, and that's why their colors are like that. Oh, but we got some action. We got a little bit of action. And, you know, even if they're covered up, you can always spot a Fremen because they have, well, that, you know, kind of blue eyes there. The blue eyes from, I think, inhaling that spice. High on spice, man. So this is an important character. This is Lea Seydoux, obviously, James Bond's wife. And now she is another member of the Bene Gesserit, Lady Margot. And she's basically like Rebecca Ferguson's character, only she was married off to a different house. And, you know, in the books, her husband has played a little bit more of a role. We'll see if he shows up here. Tim Blake Nelson's supposed to have some kind of surprise role. I wonder if he's going to play her official husband. But she has a mission to hook up with Austin Butler's character because they want to, you know, Bene Gesserit want to, you know, use his genetic material and manipulate it. So, and that's how they get it. They send these ladies to hook up with these dudes. So Lea Seydoux, so she's going to be very seductive. I don't know, the Bene Gesserit, I wonder if that's the Bene Gesserit again. They sure like you to stick your hand in stuff. All right, I'd be like, why do I always have to literally be the key man? All right, so that's cool. That's a little bit like the door from Quantumania. So they're not only are the Bene Gesserit, but also it turns out that the Fremen have their own like kind of organization of religious women. So you can be seeing maybe there's some competing with that as well. So we see some cool blade fights. You know, I swear, it looks like Nick Dragotta drew this movie. It's fascinating to me. That's a cool shot. That's really neat. I wonder who he's fighting out there in the desert. That person really is armored up. And there, you know, at first I was like, what's going on? Does he have a piercing? And I believe his teeth are black. His teeth are covered in black. So I don't think it's like, for a minute you're like, are you shooting in, you know, black and white cinematography? But I think it might just totally be the makeup, which would be really, really interesting. So he, you know, Austin Butler's proving himself. I can't wait to hear him speak. Again, he's so Elvis to so many of us at this point. Even when he was on Saturday Night Live, he was still very Elvis-y. So I'm curious to see what choices he makes here with his performance. And I think that's Rebecca Ferguson's Lady Jessica, and I believe that's right after she takes the water of life, which isn't really water. I think it's like some kind of excrement or bodily fluid from the sandworm, and you know, it also gives like it's like a power-up. For those of you who like Super Mario, it's like another power-up. Take some spice, drink some water of life. Oh baby, we're cooking here. So there we go. So she's, I hope she's already had her child. Well, actually, I think all this use actually does affect her child and makes her daughter, Paula Atreides' sister, super special as well. All right. So they're setting up that thing, you know, that makes a noise in the sand, which calls the sandworm. So there it goes. And it's cool because it creates this ticking clock feel almost while they're waiting for the sandworm to come. So it's a cool audio, you know, sound design. So he's like, all right, where is it? What's like waiting for the bus? And there he's getting, you know, the dad, I don't think that's Zendaya's father, but he's the leader of the Fremen. And I loved him in the first movie. He had Javier Bardem didn't have much to do in the first film, but he was fantastic every time he was on screen. So he's like, yeah, don't show off. And he's like, oh yeah, sure, I got it. I gotta tell you, I know it's gonna annoy some of you, but I'm really tired of this where the woman watches the guy do something cool and be like, oh wow, I'm so glad, you know, like, can't we just, I don't know, it's just so, I've seen this scene so many times, right, where they're like, I'm like, if I were there, I'd be like, you know, I've seen these kind of scenes so many times that I'm sure he's gonna do great on the sandworm. I'm not concerned about it. Let me know if he falls off of it, because that would be hilarious. So, you know, she's all like nervous. Oh, is he gonna be okay? I'm nervous about him. Although I know some of you are getting tired of seeing the reverse of that, where some guy watches a woman do it and she's like, oh yeah, I did it. So maybe we could just do away with this whole scene altogether, quite frankly. All right, so he's gonna ride a sandworm. He has a standoff with the sandworm in the desert. And, you know, I mean, I gotta tell you, the Fremen, they act like this is some really dangerous thing, but the Fremen do it all the time, at least in previous stories of Dune. You know, it's like it's a standard mode of transportation. I'm excited to see this sequence, though. So he's like, don't do anything showing off. And he's like, no, I won't. But it's weird to me because it doesn't look like he's showing off to me. It looks like, you know, he's doing the best he can. And so, yeah, he's riding it. He's riding it. I'm surprised. And so she's like, woo, he didn't die. And I thought, I don't understand why Javier Bardem's character is like so amazed. It's like, everybody does this. You all do it. Why are you so shocked that he was able to do it? He even had a little bit of a difficult time. So anyway, one of you had a really funny joke. You were like, how does he get off that thing, right? Does he just jump off it? He's so high up. Was the thing going to ever slow down? You know, you think there would be a way to maybe domesticate these sandworms just a little bit. Remember in the first movie, it stopped to look at him. I'd be like, maybe we can be friends. Paul Atreides is supposed to be the Messiah. So, looks like an attack. Oh, this is cool. Gladiator Arena. That's a lot of people, boy. I rewatched Gladiator during the pandemic, and I was like, it's Twitter. It's Twitter. Twitter is the same. It's just a digital arena. So, I'm curious to see Austin Butler's ability to do a physical action sequence. He's not totally selling me. I think he could have bulked up a little bit more. And there's Lady Margot, you know, being like, oh, I'll see you later. And so I think that's the Fremen's religious group of women. I think they're probably carrying the water of life. They're like, we got our own stuff, man. It's good. So she's like, I will never leave you, Paul Atreides. And put a pin in that one. That's going to become... I was interested how that was trending on Twitter today. Not only because I think it's a good line that fans of romance would like and Zendaya fans would like, but I also think if you're familiar with the story, you're like, oh, that's going to be a line to remember. So smooches in the desert. I wonder what's going on here with Lady Jessica. Yeah, that's Lady Jessica. She looks like she's been captured. She does not look happy. And look at that. That's an interesting look. Don't wear that in the sun. All right, so here you can see some sexy time here between Austin Butler and Léa Seydoux. So long live the fighters. And she's like, we're giving these people hope. Some of you have talked about the fact this isn't a cultural appropriation because it's a commentary on cultural appropriation. And, what do you call it? Colonization. And that, you know, here come these people feeling that they're going to rule and tell everybody what to do. And so I'll be really curious to see that come to fruition and if it actually managed to pull it off. But I don't know, this image to me of Rebecca Ferguson, it reminds me of Kate Winslet in Avatar 2. I'm like, are we really doing this? This seems offensive to me. And as some of you have pointed out, and I would agree, there aren't even any people from these regions who are working behind the scenes with this film or cast in any of the other roles even. It's like you're telling their stories and they're not involved whatsoever. And that, I don't know, but again, people seem fine with it. He's not fine with it. This is the best shot. Oh, this is also very important. So this is a duel. That's a cool shot. That's a duel between Austin Butler and Timothée Chalamet. Hair versus no hair. Because Paul Atreides has so much hair. That's hilarious. That's a nice shot, though. That's very pretty. And just the knife thing. Does it again. That's great. It's gorgeous, that shot. That's really beautiful. With the cave in the background. I mean, that's just gorgeous. I need more like this. That's the whole thing about Dune. That's what Dune's famous for. And I guess a good story. So if you're not going to watch Dune and be like, interesting, spice production. Ooh, yes, who should rule? Let's think about bloodlines. You're not going to like it. So I hope that I helped you to enjoy this trailer more if you're not familiar with Dune. And if you are familiar with Dune, how'd I do? Thank you so much. And, pick up East of West. It's not a bad comic, even though it kind of ended up going nowhere. But I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. All right, so share your thoughts on this first trailer for Dune Part 2. Subscribe today. And, of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.